Today I'm super excited to share with you a supersized large denim patchwork tote. Let's start by cutting up your old jeans and cutting out strips of denim 2.5 inches wide. I find a quilter's ruler and rotary cutter extremely helpful for this. You need a variety of different coloured denims to create the patchwork look. Approximately 5 or more pairs of jeans. You want a nice variety of colours. Once you've got some strips, let's lay them out. We're going to create strips measuring 15 inches and we're going to patchwork them together, piece them together. So here I'm just playing with different colours of denim, getting a layout I like the look of. Please excuse the back of my head. One day I'll learn to do video without the back of my head. So you can see that the side of the bag is coming together as I lay out the different pieces of denim. You're going to need 10 strips for each side of the bag, the large sides of the bag, and 4 strips for the sides of the bag. So once you've got them together, you're going to sew each individual strip together by putting the right sides together and stitching with a centimetre seam allowance or 3/8 of an inch. Once you've sewn them together, press the seams open and then trim to your approximate size. And then we're going to sew these together to create the back piece of the bag. Again, I'm using the same seam allowance of a centimetre or 3/8 of an inch. I like to use a denim needle. It makes it much easier for my sewing machine. Just keep repeating, putting the right sides together and stitching. You can see there they've got my seam allowances pressed open. That's going to help with the bulk. To create the front of the bag, you're going to create 3 sets of panels, one with 3 strips, one with 4 strips, one with 3 strips. Now we're going to create the pocket. This is 4 strips of denim that are about 7 or 8 inches long, I can't quite remember. And then we're going to use a piece of unpicked waistband along the top. So this is the panel for the pocket. There you go, I'm going to press that. I've got some lining fabric and I'm going to encase it inside the waistband and stitch it with a denim top stitch orange thread. So those are my raw edges enclosed for the top of the pocket. Now we're going to base this onto the central panel for the centre of the bag, making sure the edges align. There we go, it's all basted. Now to finish this front panel overall, we're going to sew the 3 sets of panels together. Right sides together, pin and stitch, and then the same for the other side. And then this is your overall finished front panel piece for the bag. There you go. Now I've used Scrim foam to add stabiliser to the bag. Alternatively, you could use any soft and stable, but it is more expensive. Fabric tack glue, which is a fabric glue, which is going to hold the Scrim foam in place. The Scrim foam is the size of the finished bag, so this is 17 by 14 inches. I don't want it in my seam allowances because it's just going to be too much bulk. And I'm just working out the central point of the Scrim foam, and then I'm going to work out the central denim panel strip and place it so it's in the middle there. So I've got 5 pieces either point of that central point I marked with the quilter's ruler. Just making sure I've got it nice and straight. I'm going to press it down, I'm going to set it aside to dry. And I'm going to repeat this for the back panel and the side panels. For the base of the bag, you're going to need your Scrim foam and a strip of denim. You don't need to patchwork it for the bottom. This is 7 inches by 17. So just press that on. I'm not too worried about a precise measurement for the actual denim. Right, let's make the slip pocket for the lining. So fold your slip pocket piece in half, and we are going to stitch around the short side and along side. Trim the seam corners, turn it right side out, press it out, give it a good press. I'm going to fold in those raw edges and press them in, and then we're going to place it centrally on the bag, 4 inches down from the top. I'm going to stitch the 3 sides enclosing those raw edges along the bottom. Make sure you top stitch at the top of each side seam. Right, let's assemble the bag. So we're going to pin the side panels so the scrim foam aligns with the scrim foam on the piece behind, and we're going to use that as our stitch guide. So the scrim foam's going to be the beginning of the external bag, and the denim is the seam allowance. Stitch slowly, long stitch length, use your denim needle, go slow to all help your machine. At the base of the bag, at the corners, you need to start literally where the scrim foam is, and at the top edges of the bag you need to go right to the very edge. Here I am just unpicking because I didn't quite catch the foam correctly. There we go. So now I'm going to line the side seam with the base of the bag, and around every piece for the sewn to the base of the bag you're just going to sew along the foam only, because you're going to have very bulky corners. Right, let's do the lining. So before we sew that together we need to put in a magnetic snap. This is positioned 2.5 inches down from the top, centrally. I've put a piece of fusible fleece on there first just to add a little bit of strength. I'm going to mark the lines where the prongs go through and cut with a seam ripper. If you've got a bit of anti-fray glue, add that on. I haven't, so I'm not worrying about it. Insert the prongs, put the washer on, spread the prongs out, and then I like to add a bit of iron-on interfacing on just for additional strength. Do that for the other side of the bag as well. Right, let's sew the lining together. This is the same process as for the external bag, so you're sewing right to the very top, at the top of the bag, but you're stopping seam allowance from the bottom of the bag so that you can get your base in comfortably. You do need to leave a turning gap along here, so you're going to stitch in from the corner edge 3 to 4 centimetres, 1.5 inches from each side, and then along the middle you're going to leave that unstitched so you can turn the bag out just on one side of the bag base. Now we're going to assemble the whole bag. So I'm aligning my seams, and then I'm going to pin along the top here, ready for stitching it all together. Again, I'm going to use the scrim foam as my stitch guidance, so the pins are going in along the top of the scrim foam. I'm going to use a walking foot on my sewing machine just to help it cope with the bulk. It does depend upon your sewing machine, yours might not need it. If I was using my very old Bonino, it would just quite happily glide through this, to be honest. So you can stitch all the way around, and then we're going to turn it out through the turning gap. We're going to go through this turning gap we left in the base of the lining, pull it through, give it a good press along there, along that seam you just stitched, and then we're going to fold it in and pin it so we can top stitch along here. So it's folded in, and here I go with some pins. So you're making sure the lining's fitting really snugly and nicely inside the bag. It's worth taking your time, putting lots and lots of pins in. So there you can see the bag beginning to finally take shape. Now top stitch, I'm going to sew that turning gap shut. So fold in your raw edges, pin. And then using a corresponding coordinating thread, I'm just going to top stitch along here and close that gap. You could hand stitch it with a ladder stitch if you prefer. Whatever's your preference. Once that's done, we're on to handles. So I ordered these from the app Wish. They are, if I remember correctly, about 60 centimetres long. They came with pre-punched holes, so I've marked where those holes are going to go. They're in the strips of denim parallel to the pocket, and I'm using a hole punch to put in holes where marked. The kit comes with some cap rivets, so I'm going to use those to insert. Alternatively, you can make your own handles. If you've got an old leather jacket or something, you can buy double cap rivets. So once they're in, I've got a installation kit I'm going to use just to knock them together and make them good and firm. But first of all, I'll get the other side of the handle on. So it's 3 inches down from the top of the bag. And just mark the points, put the holes in with a hole punch. And insert the rivets. I did make sure my lining was nice and flat before I punched the holes in. So this is the installation kit. Give it a good whack, and that just seals the cap rivets shut. Stops them coming apart. As you can see, the bag's very nearly complete. You're going to do that for the other side of the bag too. To finish off, I'm adding a button as a purely decorative item on this front slip pocket. It's purely for aesthetics, just checking I've got it in the middle. I realise now I didn't need the ruler because obviously I've got the denim seams below that you can use as a guide for the central point. So very nearly finished. I love this roomy denim patchwork tote bag. I made it for going to the gym, for throwing a towel, and for going in the swimming pool and being able to put all my clothes in there whilst I swim. Obviously you can use it for whatever you like. Here you go, let me show you the finished bag. I hope you love yours as much as I love mine. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe below.